He was charming, he was handsome, he was educated, and he was hiding something so dark, so calculated, that even those closest to him never saw it coming. This is the story of Ted Bundy, a man who fooled America and left a trail of devastation that would take decades to fully understand. Theodore Robert Cowell was born in 1946 at an unwed mother's home in Vermont. His mother, Louise, was just 22 years old, young, alone, and carrying the weight of a secret that would shadow her son for years. To protect her reputation, her family made a stunning decision. They would raise Ted as their own child. His grandparents became his parents. His mother became his older sister, and the lie was never spoken of again. He didn't know who he was. And in that uncertainty, in that carefully constructed family fiction, something was quietly breaking inside of him. When Ted was 4, Louise took him to Tacoma, Washington, where she married a man named Johnny Bundy, who adopted the boy as his own. It was a fresh start, or so it seemed. In high school, Ted never quite fit. He was considered handsome, but awkward, shy, afraid to let people in. While others seemed to move through the world with ease, Ted watched from the outside. And then in adolescence, he discovered the truth. His sister was his mother. His parents were his grandparents. Everything he had ever been told was a lie. In 1966, Ted enrolled at the University of Washington, and suddenly everything changed. He blossomed. He was charming, well-dressed, and articulate. Professors praised him. Students admired him. But those who looked closely, those who paid real attention, would later describe a strange emptiness beneath the surface, a hollowness behind the smile, a charm that felt just a little too perfect. He even volunteered at a suicide crisis hotline. His colleagues thought he was wonderful, warm, attentive, genuinely caring. One of them was a young woman named Anne Rule. She would later write a best-selling book about the man she once called a friend. At the university, Ted Bundy fell deeply in love. She was beautiful, wealthy, popular, everything he had always wanted and never felt he deserved. And for a time, she loved him back, but she grew restless. She saw the real Ted, a man full of big talk and little action, a man going nowhere, and she ended it just like that. The rejection devastated him. And many who studied Bundy later believed it was this moment, this wound, that became the dark catalyst for everything that followed. By early 1974, Ted Bundy had reinvented himself, throwing himself into law and politics, even winning his dream girl back. They were talking about marriage. Then, without warning, he cut off all contact, and the disappearances began. February 1st, 1974. 21-year-old Linda Ann Healy, a bright musical university student, was due to record her daily ski report for the radio. She never showed up. When her housemates finally checked her room, they found her bed made, but when they pulled back the covers, the mattress was soaked in blood. She was just gone. He had taken her away in the night, and no one had seen a thing. Over the next 6 months, more young women vanished. Donna Mason, Susan Rancourt, Roberta Parks, Brenda Ball, Georgianne Hawkins, each one bright, each one beautiful, each one with long, center-parted dark hair. Each one looked like her, the woman who had broken his heart. It was, investigators would later say, almost as if Bundy was on a mission. July 14th, 1974. 40,000 people packed Lake Sammamish State Park on a blazing summer afternoon. Families, couples, teenagers, everyone soaking up the sun. And somewhere among them, Ted Bundy. He wore a cast on his arm. He approached young women alone, asking politely, almost helplessly, if they might help him get his canoe off the roof of his car. Most said no, But some said yes, and those who did were never seen again. That single afternoon, in a park filled with tens of thousands of witnesses, Bundy abducted 2 women in broad daylight, without a single soul noticing until it was too late. By mid-1974, Bundy had moved on. He enrolled at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, and almost immediately, young women began disappearing there too. Same pattern, same type, same silence. He was methodical, surgical. He brought specific tools. He followed specific procedures. Investigators described his attacks as being as precisely planned as a military operation. He was a master predator, and he knew it. But in November 1974, Bundy made his first serious mistake. He approached a young woman named Carol Durant at a shopping mall, posing as a police officer, claiming someone had tried to steal her car. She believed him. She got into the Volkswagen, and then he tried to handcuff her. Carol fought back. She threw herself out of the moving car and ran. She survived. She was the one who got away, and she would never forget his face. In August 1975, an off-duty officer spotted Bundy's Volkswagen behaving suspiciously. He was pulled over, charged with possession of burglary tools. And when Carol Durant was shown a photo lineup, she picked him out immediately. Ted Bundy was under arrest, convicted for the kidnapping of Carol Durant and transferred to Colorado to face murder charges. Bundy still believed he was smarter than everyone in the room. And in June 1977, he proved it. He jumped out of a courthouse window and simply walked away into the mountains. He was caught 8 days later, but it wasn't over. On December 30th, 1977, Bundy starved himself thin enough to squeeze through a ceiling panel in his cell. He crawled through the jailer's home, and by the time anyone noticed he was gone, he was already 1,000 miles away. He ended up in Tallahassee, Florida. New identity, new city, and for a brief moment, silence. It lasted 1 week. In the early hours of January 15, 1978, Ted Bundy entered the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. What he did inside, in those dark, quiet hours, was described by investigators as something close to a frenzy. 2 young women were killed. 2 more were left critically injured, all in a matter of minutes. Margaret Bowman, Lisa Levy, 20 years old, gone. 3 weeks later, he took a child. Kimberly Leach left her classroom to retrieve a forgotten bag. A witness saw a man push a young girl, close to tears, into a white van. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. On February 15, 1978, a police officer in Pensacola spotted a suspicious Volkswagen. The driver fled, on foot. There was a struggle, a shot was fired, and the man on the ground gave his name as Ken Meister. Then he changed it. Theodore Robert Bundy. The trial that followed was unlike anything America had seen. Bundy chose to represent himself, convinced that his intelligence and charm would save him. They didn't. They exposed him. In a courtroom of evidence, bite marks on one of his victims matched his teeth almost perfectly. Our teeth, the forensic expert told the jury, are nearly as unique as fingerprints. On the day the verdict came in, Ann Rule, his old colleague from the crisis hotline, was in the courtroom. As Bundy walked past her in handcuffs, he silently mouthed, "I didn't do it." She went home that day and was physically sick because she knew. She had finally accepted the truth. Theodore Robert Bundy was found guilty. He was sentenced to death by electric chair. And for the next 11 years, he sat on death row, scheming, appealing, and refusing to confess. Only in his final days, facing the certainty of death, did Bundy begin to confess. Not out of remorse, not out of guilt, but to buy time, to remain relevant, to stay one last time at the center of the story.
He admitted to at least 36 murders, though many believe the true number was far higher. He confessed to returning to the places where he had left his victims, to what he did there. His family, his mother, his wife, had believed him innocent until the very end. He shattered that, too. On the 24th of January, 1989, Ted Bundy was executed by electrocution. Outside the prison, crowds had gathered. Some cheered, others simply stood in silence for the women and girls who never had the chance to grow old. So was Ted Bundy born to kill? Was it the lies of his childhood, the mother who became his sister, the grandparents who became his parents? Was it the rejection that shattered him? Or was there something darker, woven into his DNA from the start? The experts disagree. But one answer came